Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Mystic Trainwreck. This is your host, Rob Randolph. Here with me tonight, I've got Dr. Christopher Lee and Crass Joy, astrologer extraordinaire. My credentials are, I'm interested in both these things. So Chris is math, Crass is astrology. And I'm sure I have some interesting contributions of my own, maybe. Who knows? I don't know. But we'll find out. Chris just raised the question before we started, and that's going to be the start of the talk tonight. And that question is, when you discover you're a spiritual being, how do you get your needs met in a society that is materialistic and not always sympathetic to those needs? So, Crass, what do you feel?
Well, I believe that would enforce creativity. The driving force of the awakened being, the I am being stirred up. There's no going back on that one. And the world is ever changing and unchanging at the same time. And I don't know, like once it's creativity. You need to get creative. The only way is to do something that has never been done before because you're doing it.
Well, that concludes our podcast for this evening.
Yeah.
Good night.
Short and sweet. See you next time, everybody.
That was just a couple of minutes synopsis of of pretty much as close to the truth as you're gonna get, right? But I remember months ago watching this video on YouTube. I can't remember the name of the person who runs the channel, but it's called Actualized or something, And it was a 2-hour discussion about how to escape wage slavery, which was a big topic on my mind at the time. I was in a job that I realized held me with no value. In other words, what I could contribute and what I felt I could uniquely and creatively offer to the universe by virtue of my perspective was not being valued. And this was in a career that people spend decades trying to start. This was not something that you just kind of, work your way up to because you started in a high school and you kissed ass or whatever. It's a different situation. There's kissing ass, but it's a different situation. So it was on my mind because I was thinking about leaving a job that I had guaranteed for the rest of my life.
Right.
And yet my manifestation, my incarnation had built up so much karma in the process of grasping that role that once I understood what I believed to be my true purpose, it made it difficult to hold on to it.
Yeah.
So there's one answer, I guess, which is just drastically change your situation. I didn't have enough time for the stuff that I needed to do to maintain my spiritual connection. So I drastically changed my material situation.
That's the now awakened force creativity turning back on the mundane world and saying, go, I can stir you up too.
Yeah.
And yeah, calibrate the power there. Yeah.
And what you said about creativity being what we each can uniquely contribute, that triggered my mind to that video, which was another point that was being made, which is you've got to make yourself as useful as possible in some way. And no one says that that utility has to be void of spiritual content.
Yeah. I struggle with hearing make yourself useful, even though I know it's the formula. So like the usefulness is like the more you do what you want, the more you become useful because the more of a master you are of being yourself. And that just ultimately gives back.
Yeah.
So it's almost as though it's like, I don't know. I have the kind of character that always wants to thrash first. So yeah, I enjoy the challenge of being like, no, like I want to be useful by yeah, I don't know, like becoming a master first and like not thinking about how useful I am at all. I don't know.
Well, most things
But I
are
become more
gotten-
useful. Yeah. Yeah.
Aren't most things gotten by ignoring them?
Oh, I mean, yeah.
Or at least stopping wanting them.
It's a real kick in the ass that the universe actually works that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really fucked up once you figure it out. Like the more you grasp after something, the easier it will slip through the fingers. Like the stronger you're attempting to maintain what you think is the optimal grip, the more the actual optimal grip eludes you, I found.
There has to be an interaction between the conscious and the unconscious. I don't know what else that is.
It is, but I feel the problem is in letting the analytical mind mediate between the two. It will cut away the things that it finds distasteful in the subconscious, not let those things surface, right? And so those are the places where you'll be stuck in, or let's say, will be stuck in trying to figure out why do I keep doing this particular, why do I keep having this response to this stimulus? Even though it's a response I don't particularly want to have. And so there's an analytical part of me that's saying that's not a place I should look at. For whatever reason, either it's too uncomfortable. It's because I'm scared, but the justification it's offering up is never that. And so getting the analytical mind out of the way in whatever way we can. And I think creativity will do that. I think when you're writing, a good tip is to not edit your sentences as you're writing them, but to kind of go stream of consciousness and then come back later. And that's a trick to get the analytical mind out of the way so the creativity can talk. So the subconscious, as you were saying, and conscious can talk to each other, more without having that asshole standing by going, no, this, yes, this, not that, yes, this, not that, and just having a free flow of information. At least that's how it looks to me in my head.
Yeah, flow states. Yeah, for sure. Flow states, any way you can get to a flow state and tap into that is really essential. I would say though, like all of this is about service, right? In your sense, with the analytical mind, your ego is asking you to serve the rational world. It's saying, well, there are these requirements that the rational world has, and if you want to be a part of it, you need to think of things this way. I think
there's
something that helps me is to always see myself as separate from every everybody else. That includes the other thing that's sitting here working in consensus reality too, right? Like I've got a lot of things to serve, and my ego is one of them. So even though it gets angry and makes demands, it's, I got to make sure that even when I deny it, I'm denying it the way that a parent would gently deny a child.
Mm. Mm.
I think the analytical mind can be creative.
Yeah.
For sure.
Also, when I refer to the unconsciousness,
Mhm.
I'm being literal. You're not aware of it. It's the exterior world. It's what you think is adversary. It's what you think is in your way. It's all the things that are not you. You don't want them. Good and bad. We don't need to. We've done that conversation a million times.
That's the shadow lurking always with a surprise. If you just take a flashlight and see what is in there today, what's down this alley? Oh no, it's my dad. I'm gonna back out of this one.
Lately, my dad has been down that alley. Goddamn.
Yeah, dude, mine too.
And mine too.
It's just the nature of dads, bro.
Is Jupiter having some sort of issue up there?
Jupiter's good. Oh, I have a Jupiter story.
What's a Jupiter
I
star?
was at a witch fire last Thursday of the full moon, and I met some beautiful, magical people. And I was showing them Saturn, and then I opened my arms up, and this is Jupiter. And this meteorite of the Perseids meteor shower just went right through past Jupiter, through Aries, and it was a bright red meteor. I was like, how? Like, Jupiter is that lucky. Like you like open your arm to Jupiter, and it's just like, here's a shooting star.
That is great.
Yeah.
So Jupiter in Aries, though, right? That's got to mean something.
That means a whole lot of some things. Yeah.
I don't understand astrology, but if I think about my tree
Mhm.
and what's spilling over where Jupiter's living, if that's impassioned with the red fire of revenge or anger, displacement, resentment, self-hatred.
My favorite pastime.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe right now the paternal is having a little bit of an issue with their anger.
Fuck you, Dad.
Jupiter is in Rob's first house right now and in Chris's 10th house right now. But the two most apparent houses to have Jupiter in. So, like, you guys are experiencing Jupiter more than most right now, for sure.
I'm a big fan. I like you.
Yeah, Jupiter's great. Jupiter is is expansion, and Aries is the self. So this is a very good time to not use
Feels yucky.
Ah,
And how do you take time for that when you need to, right? Because if you feel the need to make that push, the modern world, the way it's configured, is not wanting to let you do that.
it it has convinced you of that because it wants to do so, and that conscious unconscious interplay is everywhere. So if it's busy doing the expansion thing, then it's busy telling you subconsciously that you should not, do not, it's a threat. But that's the message, it's a threat. You doing it too is a threat. So there's there's nothing bad. There's nothing bad out there. It's just, yeah, it's our framework and how we're scared of it.
Yeah, can
Scared
we
of little
fall in love with it?
details.
Can we? That's the idea, right? It's like taking a look at your own framework and going like, oh,
It takes a
oh,
lot of bravery.
that's
Face
nice.
yourself.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's been my shit is just, yeah. My therapist asked me to get off at the top of my downward spirals rather than at the bottom, following them all the way to the bottom. And I must admit, my reaction to that was, fuck you, you don't control me.
I'm like, if your reaction wasn't fuck you, I don't know who you are.
But at the same time, I recognize the value in not going all the way to the bottom and, doing the damage that going to the bottom entails.
I really
Can we
dislike
compare and
those.
contrast?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Compare and contrast.
I'll remember my point. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah. I was just saying I don't really like most popular programs for addicts, but they have good slogans. And the one that's relevant here is that you get to define your own rock bottom. That's a powerful saying, and I feel like it's the same one here.
Hmm.
Sorry, Crass. It just reminded me.
Yeah. Well, I think you actually alluded to some of the answer I was looking for, because what the therapist seems to be doing without explaining to me anyway is kind of like mitigating the need for the next high contrast climb because there's a fall. So I like trying to even out the good with the bad a little.
Mhm.
Because like even like my initial response was, but like my curiosity understands why one finishes the fall, and my just dark nature wants, I don't know, I'm attracted to the fall. So
Mhm.
like my first response in my gut was like how dare you ask me to have less information? But then with Chris's kind of like addition, I kind of understood, oh, maybe it's a mitigation technique without saying it's mitigation technique, because there's a loss there too.
Yes.
There's a loss of experience.
Yeah.
So one thing that can be very, very powerful is to sit down and imagine what that rabbit hole looks like,
Mm-hmm.
and to look at the consequences
Mm-hmm.
of that rabbit hole. And then ask yourself, is that something that I want? Because you've already, by virtue of thinking, allowed yourself to tell the story of the future that can be.
Yeah, that's true.
And you get to make plus or minus free will. Let's not get into that tonight, but you get to ostensibly make that choice, right?
Mhm.
And so I think I of course love the rabbit holes, and I want to go down and find out every one and have every experience. And I did that with one of them, and I almost ended up dead. And I think after that I was like, oh, I'm just not, I'm when I see something headed in that trajectory, I'm just going to go, well, do I want to do that? And that's been a powerful change in perspective for me, to know that it's under my control. Again, plus, let's just assume some sort of control, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about awareness. I'm aware of it. I'm suddenly aware of it in a way that I can process it and interact with it in ways that produce change. I'm part of the dynamics of the process now, rather than it being a dynamic that affects me, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hmm.
Oh no, where'd you go? Did I disappear? Did I go away?
Yeah, for just like a half.
Excellent timing.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. I don't exist when you don't see me. I don't know if we're not listening to some Sisters of Mercy in
Oh,
the 2020s, then we're missing out, man. This was pure 1990s goth warnings about the fascist police state coming to crush all of us and grind our bones up into meal for the robotic AI horsemen of death. Anyway,
I just have Leonard Cohen's Sisters of Mercy in my head now. So
Sisters of Mercy, they are
that's so
not
lovely.
forgotten or gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I'm busting the record out later on tonight. Yep. I haven't listened to Leonard for a while.
Necessary. Yes.
So music is creative. I feel like I spend too much time with music. Now, there's got to be a reason I feel like that's a judgment. And I feel like that judgment's coming from the consensus reality. Probably that's where my question came up that started the whole discussion in the first place is how do I
Yeah.
do this?
Well, now we're back to the perennial question of philosophy in some sense. It's like, what's the best for you to move forward? Like, how do we optimally navigate this? And I don't know. In some sense, it seems to be a process of becoming extremely comfortable with uncertainty in one regard or another.
Yes.
As a general rule, that's a good one. Yeah.
Give yourself over and it'll happen, right? But that's what everybody tells us. But
But what will happen? Your own nature, right?
Yeah.
Give yourself over to what? Give
Your-
yourself
hidden
over
for
to your
me,
own
it's
nature.
hidden from me.
Yeah.
Go on.
I have too many dimensions going on to.
I mean, can we quote Crowley at this point? Is it, I mean, it's do as thou wilt, right? It's just a call to ultimate agency and letting everything have ultimate agency, which is everybody's okay with everything that happens all the time forever. Which is
if the
sounds like a tall
if the oh sorry.
Go ahead.
If the mundane world keeps calling you back, then do as thy will is appropriate. But as soon as there's integration, then do as thy will is a sin. Oh, like, yeah, that was extreme. Yeah.
Yeah, if once you have a duality, yeah. As soon as you have a dualistic view, do as thou wilt is an injunction to ignore reality. But
Who said, free will? I think maybe it was even Huxley, maybe not, but free will is doing what, maybe Jung, free will is doing what I ought to do lovingly, or like free will is what I ought to be doing with with my own desire or
Right.
whatever.
There's a sense of living out a state of being that does not lead to regret in one way or another, right? Like realizing that every move you're making is in some sense just the process playing out, and there's no reason to feel bad about any of it ever.
Yeah. I.
I've always had a problem with free will.
Yeah, there isn't any. I mean, not really.
Well, I don't, but yeah, there is. Like I can't just stop breathing.
I mean, you could.
No, I don't feel like I can make that choice.
You could make that choice in a mechanical sense. I mean, your biology might not do it, but you can certainly stop breathing.
You could put a rope around your neck and
do
tie it on a.
like all kinds of shit to stop breathing. I'm just saying, all I'm saying is like, if it doesn't occur to you to do that, it's not part of your option set. And so anything that's not in your option set can't happen by virtue of it not being there. Like if you just take a thought from the top of the four worlds all the way to the bottom, like where does it get filtered? And you know, I once it gets to the bottom, I don't know that we have a choice.
See, that's the point. Like that question isn't about what I want to do or not. It's about what is will.
Right. Yeah, yes. I agree.
And the only way I can make sense of will is in the context of service.
Huh. Uh-huh. Okay.
Will is the purest service.
You're gonna have to break that down for us, Chris.
Yeah, I'm gonna need one more step.
It's pure in the sense that there's nothing working against it. And it's service in the sense that it's bringing to fruition the creation for the benefit of oneself and others who ultimately are just the I. And so it's a way of serving with Wu Wei, the art of doing nothing, doing things by doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's effortless service.
You see, even in that phrase, that still encapsulates a paradox. So all you've managed to say, in my view, is recapitulating the fact that will is paradoxical and a mystery. And as soon as we start saying it's one thing or another, we've lost the wholeness of it in some sense. I mean, we can't not, but there's and I think saying it's effortless service is exactly that. That's a kind of mystery, right? What does effortless service look like?
So in my mind,
Mm-hmm.
there's a curve that is being traversed by a consciousness through space-time. So consider that particular map.
Okay.
That curve has, at any point in space-time and time itself, a motion, because it's changing in time and position.
Mm-hmm.
That motion at that moment can be described by an arrow in the direction of travel,
Mm-hmm.
the length of which representing kind of the speed, the rate of change of position with respect to time,
Mm-hmm.
universally. Now that arrow, if you imagine free will, you can put another arrow on top of it. That represents how your choices change,
Mm-hmm.
or attempt to change, rather, that trajectory. So you can have free will to choose, but you can still have no will to travel. In other words, your arrow at this moment, how it compares to another arrow at this moment of your true will, the discrepancy between those is your suffering.
Yeah.
There's
I
a
think-
concept from mathematics called work. I guess it's from physics. The idea is that it's a transference of a force through a distance. And you can either go with the flow or you can cause yourself some suffering. That's what I mean in concrete terms.
This mathematical work you speak of is very akin to the creativity I mentioned earlier.
Oh, really? How so?
Yeah,
That's
it's
interesting.
just your work. It's your creativity. It's your spark here. You are meat and flesh and bone, and with your work, you are an animated altar, not just an altar waiting to be animated.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
I've always had a question then, how much of one direction influences the other? Is one always going to win? I don't know.
Don't know. You are dark again, though.
Me?
Yeah, it's kind of cool though. We're a
It's nice.
gradient.
Yeah.
Why am I so much
Um,
darker all of a sudden?
Who knows? Did the light change in your existence? It did
Not
not.
that I know of.
Maybe Zoom's camera doodly thing changed. I don't know.
Let's try some more light.
I got a question for you, Rob.
Oh, now I'm very
Yes.
bright.
Is it possible to stop yourself at any given point before the bottom? It's a universal and a personal question.
It seems like whatever point, like Chris said, you choose your rock bottom. So at any point where you're hitting that thing where you're like, okay, I tap out, that's where it
I have
is.
an attachment to the bottom. Yeah.
So do I. So do I. I mean, that's why my rock bottom looks like suicide. Like you can't get more rock bottom than that.
That's a good rock bottom to have. No, that's an escapist. That's an escape mechanism. A lot of my friends would escape by like doing ketamine and drinking alcohol and doing coke or whatever. I would freaking fantasize about killing myself.
Yeah.
For
Okay.
those darkest hours. Yeah, fuck yeah. It's just an escape mechanism. It's an indicator that you don't want to be here. It's not even that meaningful, right?
No,
It's not even that meaningful.
It's
no,
not even that bottom.
no.
It's not,
That's what I'm saying.
There are
it's
dudes,
very Neptunian.
there are white dudes stepping into schools all over the country, bottoming out way lower than that.
Well, yeah, right. But that's what I'm saying. It's like I'm choosing that particular bottom because those other bottoms have occurred to me, but I do not want them. Right. So I'm choosing the one that's the internal, like
Yeah, you're going with self-combustion.
Yeah, but not in the sense where I'm executing it. Just the ideation comes up and I feel like I need to talk about it. And that's the thing that lets people know I need help. I'm working on
That's fair.
asking for help
That's
before
fair.
that point, right? But the goal is not to exit. The goal is to just have less attachment. And that seems like, that's it's an escape, right? It's just, but it's not less attachment in the sense of I become more okay with what is. It's the ultimate, I'm not okay with anything that is, and I just want to check out. And that's, like you said, yeah, you can do that with chemicals and alcohol. Maybe that would be less destructive, but maybe not.
Yeah, you're being really creative with that desire to escape. Yeah.
I would,
But
well,
it is-
not, but I think there would be ways that I could be much more creative with the desire.
No, I'm not gonna argue that. But yeah, you're turning it inward. If it was less conscious, it would be externalized more and more. Case in point, what Chris just said.
Agreed. Yeah.
Where are you going to go?
What do you mean?
Well, you're talking about escape. Where are you going to go?
Well, the idea that you can be anywhere else is fallacious. It's just this deep desire that there's somebody else, somewhere else that exists for you to go to.
Well, yeah. So
That's really insightful. Yeah.
So it's true, right?
Yeah.
So, but in those moments, so that's a rational truth that you don't believe.
In that particular place. Wait, which
No,
truth do I not believe?
yeah, I mean, it's something that you just said is pretty much true as far as we can think it, right? It's logically seems reasonable. Not all rational truths are true, and not all truths are rational.
Amen.
Yeah.
But if there's nowhere to go, then what is suicide?
Well, it's like what happens to the wave when it stops being part of the ocean.
No, that's not how it works. There's a big wave, and you're a harmonic. You're a transient on this wave. You are basically a harmonic that's way out at the end
Yeah.
of some big vibration that's happening, right? If you try to snuff out that vibration, the overall pattern of the thing that's vibrating is just going to vibrate another one of you back into existence, because it's the overall pattern that's constructing you.
Yo, agreed.
And then and it's just going to happen again.
Yeah.
So you're being given an opportunity with your awareness. Since you are aware, you can make progress.
Well, right. That's the message. But that the thing is like, so what does progress mean in that sentence? What does make progress mean? Because I'm already making progress by virtue of the fact that I'm part of this ongoing process. So am I proceeding towards a stronger awareness of the overall process? That's what it feels like.
Well, that's where faith comes in. Right. So if you have no faith, then I can't answer that question. But if you
I was
are
going to intellectualize it way more.
Yeah. If you're a person of
That's
faith, the
nice.
answer is that you're always trying to get back to whence you came.
I don't think you have to be a person of faith to try to have a perspective through which you can see that the only reason to be an individual is to re-experience the idea of wholeness.
I think you have to have faith to believe it, though. Because it is the one thing that I've thought about that you cannot experience in the current shroud that we're in.
Right.
So
You
given
don't
that,
need.
my choice, having looked at all the other choices, having tried to kill myself slowly, having tried to kill myself quickly, having tried to kill myself in every possible conceivable way in my mind, I finally had to just conclude that if not now, then when? Because the rest of the time, I'm totally oblivious to it. So that's given me a springboard of faith that if I just keep doing this shit, it's going to work.
Yeah, you brought me off into a very abstract, distant land.
I hope it looks like a yes cover.
Not far off, yeah. You are not the wave, you are transient on the wave.
Yeah.
You're a harmonic.
Okay, but so in astrology, I can take my natal chart and cast it through the harmonics. So I want to know what you mean by that, because I don't even know what I mean by that yet.
So what
how am
I'm
I a harmonic? I could be many different things. Like I can harmonize with myself through time.
yes.
Okay.
For me, a harmonic is a particular thing that happens with a waveform. So with a wave, if you shorten it by half,
Right.
you'll create a tone that's higher. That's a harmonic. It'll harmonize with the original tone. If you then cut that remaining distance in half again, 1/4 of the original size, you get another harmonic. If you think of a string, if you think of doing this with a fretted instrument,
Yeah.
and so a wave is not a plucked string, is not a pure flowing wave. It changes, it stretches, and it vibrates, and it does all sorts of things. And those harmonics are just those portions of that wave that come through in that mess. They're reflections at a precise geometrical ratio
Yeah.
of reality at different places that are experiencing their own time scales.
Yeah. I was feeling that. That's cool.
Because
Yeah.
a harmonic will only exist for a little bit, even though the big wave is still flowing.
Right. Well, I'm gonna have to meditate on that in the astrological sense, but uh, like I don't feel like I
All about clock.
understand something until I can visualize it and interact with it from every perspective. I didn't hear what you said.
Well, you told me astrology is all about clocks.
I might have called it a clock. I might have called the solar system
Yeah,
a
I
giant
interpreted
clock.
it as basically then being all about clocks, right?
Okay.
A clock is just a wave.
Mhm.
It's a pure sine or whatever wave. It's a pure wave. And so when I think about astrology, what I think of is what's called a, a linear combination of archetypes. So you have these pure waves represented by frequencies, right? And every given person at a given time is a little bit this frequency, a little bit that frequency, a little bit this, and then you add it all up and you've kind of got a complex wave built out of these simple waves. And so that might
Yeah.
be a way to connect it.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. But I mean, like the harmonic charts, then I tap into that when I like, can I like talk about fortune and will? Yeah, I know you said let's not talk about that tonight, but if I can energize my pattern and get a higher tone or a lower tone, like it, like how, like I am controlling that. I just don't know how.
You shorten and lengthen distances.
Yes.
So I don't know. I'm just trying to get
What?
to something that's going to trigger you because I don't know what you're talking about. So how I would generate a harmonic is I would take a wave of a certain length and I would cut it in half.
Yeah, no, I get how they're generated.
I'm
I
wondering if that's
I don't, but I've
it'd be like taking one of your clocks and looking at half a cycle.
okay.
And considering that a
Yeah.
full cycle.
Considering it a what?
A full cycle. So if you're taking half the cycle, you're gonna
Yeah.
have will be considering it a full cycle within
Yes.
within the wholeness, right?
Yeah. So that's, I guess, what I would think of, right?
Harmonics are also narrative, by the way.
Yeah, I definitely got a nuance from from that. Thanks.
Yeah, that's an interesting question because I always think words are hardly ever accidentally used in the same place twice. There's, in different places
Mhm.
without a
Mhm,
connection.
mhm.
Yeah.
Huh, I didn't know anything about that.
Like harmonics, like the way we construct narrative in our mind so that it is coherent is by finding natural harmonics within greater stories.
Hmm. Yeah, reverberations of the past that are still plucking throughout the future
Right.
with the same
Is another
it's
way of,
Mm.
Yep,
People,
nostalgia.
Craft, what were you saying is another way? What? I'm
is
curious.
another way of saying what you just said, perhaps like the reason why certain archetypes might stand out to me more.
Mhm.
Yeah, could archetype be exchanged for harmonic in that statement pretty
It's the same thing.
comfortably?
So you could say, you could see the archetype as a really large wave, and stories
Yeah.
that include the archetype as harmonics of that waveform. So like Hercules, right? Let's take Hercules as a harmonic of the waveform Aries,
Sure, or the hero, yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
you take Hercules, he has a particular arc to his story wherein he is exemplifies Aries at one point, right? And because Aries always exemplifies Aries, that doesn't have an arc to it.
Yeah, yeah.
But Hercules has an arc to him. So there's a snuffing of his waveform inside the grander picture.
Yeah, nice.
Right? And inside Hercules, we have strong guys that figure out not to beat their wives.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets very complex. Yeah.
Right. That's a much shorter like story of that.
Yeah,
Right.
that's super
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But those stories make sense to us. Those are the ones that make sense. Is what
Because we lock into the wave.
we lock
Yeah.
into the wave and we notice that
Yeah.
harmonizes. When we go into a movie and the story's like, the fuck was that? That means it's not a harmonic. Like it's not exemplifying the wholeness of the wave inside its smaller arc.
Yeah. I'm very pleased with how
Oh.
that went.
So it's fascinating how many mathematical concepts apply to narrative.
Well, isn't it the same thing? Like
Yes.
it's all the same. Like it's all, we're all looking at the same subtle universe.
Yeah, I would say you can formularize narrative down to, but the thing that's interesting about narrative is that the symbols of narrative don't mean one thing like they do in math.
Ah, it's not true in math.
Well, okay,
Nice.
good point.
That would be much more true in physics, for
Okay.
example. A mathematician only uses symbols because you can't understand what I'm saying if I don't.
Right.
You just can't, until telepathy works reliably, people will have to do algebra.
Fair, I guess. Not being a mathematician or a physicist.
Physics tries to keep their variables very under wraps so that they can, put them in different contexts and things. But for the most part, mathematics is just the study of structure.
Right. Well, narrative is also the study of structure.
Right. And so from that very zoomed out perspective, I think they're more or less identical.
Okay.
Yeah, the narrative is the Sagittarius Jupiter realm, and the math would be the rational Gemini realm,
Saturn.
if we're going that way for archetypes. Yeah. I'm learning so much tonight. This is lovely.
I guess if you
Well,
think
actually, I'm not.
Go ahead, yeah.
No, you go ahead.
Well, the planets, right, are little clocks, right? They're little harmonic oscillators,
Mhm.
right? And maybe there's, right, when they're in certain places, that's going to give certain weights to the planet's effect on a person, right? You could probably.
Some of us speculate.
Yeah, like I don't know, you could probably write down a pretty decent mathematical model of simple astrological structure and tune it to find harmonics like a synthesizer.
Perhaps it's a winter project for us.
Yeah, you could build just the ideal, I forget what the Hermeticists call it, atom, ADAM.
Mhm.
um uh
Just kind of the template with all the planetary archetypes built in with all the ways that they communicate with each other.
Mhm.
Each planet being a knob on a synthesizer where you can turn this knob and then see what this person's like, and
spectrums of light.
yeah. Also waves.
Also waves. Yeah.
Everything is waves. It's really
Right.
crazy. It's almost like there's this big hunk of jello
Plasma.
and someone of a larger stature flopped into it and said, "Let there be light."
Mhm.
And then all these little jello vibrations at their little time scales had these wonderful adventures because this person just wanted to jump into the jello pool.
Right, but the thing is that person is not other than the Jello pool.
What?
The entity that jumped into the Jello pool is not other than the Jello pool. In that scenario, like it's
Not
the Jello,
anymore.
it's the Jello pool jumping.
I don't know if you've ever jumped into a pool of jello, but you're not getting out. Remember when we were young and quicksand was a thing? What happened to quicksand?
Yeah, I've thought about that. I'm like, do we have so many other fears in life that none of us are scared of quicksand anymore?
I was
It's
scared
not
of
even
quicksand when I was a kid. I thought for sure it was going to get me. Now I haven't even thought about it. Where'd the quicksand go?
It's not a meme anymore.
I know they brought it back though in the new Predator movie. There's a
Oh, did they?
there's a quicksand bit. It's just great.
Everything's a harmonic oscillator, even quicksand in popular media
And Predator movies.
and Predator movies.
And then that would be the Triforce of those things.
It is. I mean, it really is. It really is like the circumstance intersecting with its context again. It's so bizarre that I'm at 42. I'm watching a new Predator movie. You know,
Mimetic prodigy. No,
Yeah.
mimetic
progeny.
what's the word for progeny? Thank you so much.
Genetic progeny.
Yeah.
Or is it just a fluctuation in the, what's that? Rupert Sheldrake morphogenetic field.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Right?
That is the bigger wave. That is one of the biggest waves you could probably get into. Whereas there are probably, right? Like, and morphogenic fields, as far as Rupert Sheldrake was concerned, was a lot like interspecies, like it connected species. Whereas I think like I like to use it sometimes with like hive mind, and I wonder what
I think he did eventually develop on his own the idea that you've arrived at, which is there's this wave place where if you make an idea, if you create something with a thought or an action, then it just builds that waveform into reality and makes it easier for it to propagate and exist elsewhere.
Right.
So you see this happen when scientific discoveries tend to happen at the same time. I mean, a skeptic or a debunker would say, well, yeah, that's because, they're all working on the same things. But let's really start being more sensitive to the uncanny nature of synchronicity. There's stuff going on that we're just disregarding, right? When these scientific breakthroughs happen one after another, it's not because of capitalism, it's because there's a vibration that's suddenly now easier to make.
Mm. Well, if anything, capitalism mimics that. And that's why so many of us, so much of the world is comfortable with capitalism right now, because for some reason it falls into a harmonic or whatever, a mimetic structure.
Well, yeah, because as soon as you develop a value structure, you have the roadmap to assigning arbitrary value to things in a hierarchy, which is
Yeah.
which is what precedes capitalism, meaning you can value certain things more than other things, and you can trade, and then that just leads. I mean, capitalism with a C, capital C, is a mode of organizing market, but I'm talking like little c capitalism, where you have trade markets and then people ostensibly trying to do things in that market.
Yeah, commerce.
Yeah,
commerce.
but it's different than that, because in this particular kind of, well, capitalism might be more accurately categorized as the degree to which money flows through a society.
The ratio, the degree.
Yeah, there's something like that. When there's the idea of a so when in the 1500s, in the 1300s and earlier, like, your gold wasn't worth the same as the king's gold. Like, you could still have this coin and it's gold, but like, it didn't matter there, and it wasn't because there were different relative values. It's that this dude could say this is worth this much, right? It was very arbitrary. And that cash flow was largely stopped. Largely what happened is money would flow into pools and stay there and wouldn't leave. And the degree to which we have more capital flow in a society, the healthier the society operates, generally speaking. Like, if it doesn't pool, like blood in a body, if it doesn't pool too much in one place, that's generally a good thing. And when you have too much pooling in one place, generally that indicates some sort of dis-ease within some other part of the society, right? Or will lead to one almost inevitably. And so I think, to the degree that we promote flow, there it is again, and I hesitate to defend the idea of capitalism in here. But I think the idea of making that the goal of less pooling, right? And you might say there's a socialist like idea in there, probably, yeah, because all you're talking about is the problem with the socialist mechanism is generally it's top down, not bottom up. And
It's the same problems.
yeah, it's the same problem in highly regulated capital markets, where you have bad actors that can essentially make top-down decisions without being given that authority by everybody else, right? And so you have a perverse incentive structures and all that kind of shit. No, I'm not defending any of that. What I am saying is there's an idea that the waveform of money exists, and it's like slower and denser than, because it's a kind of energy, right? Where people put labor into a thing, they extract out a kind of value. The differential in between what they put in and what they take out is the margin, and then that has its own harmonic waveform, I guess, maybe, but it flows, right? And then that's supposed to flow into other places. I don't know where I'm going with this.
Well, it's lovely to be back at flow, nevertheless.
Yes. This
Oh.
feels like a natural stopping place, does it not?
It did for a second, and then I just wanted to tie it
Yeah, I
back.
feel like we need to wrap it up at this
Yeah,
point.
there's
Yeah.
but the idea, right, of the capital answering part of the we have to you can't ignore that part in answering the question that we posed. How do we make it through this society? How do we
Right.
there's a flow that we must interact with.
Yes. It's a relevant perspective that one needs to take on. For me, capitalism is about exploitation.
Yes.
There's no other
Okay.
way, just that's the definition of it. It's the flow of that money, but the heartbeat, see, the thing that pumps it
Mhm.
is the capitalism in this case. And what that means is that it's a pyramid scheme. Capitalism is fundamentally a pyramid scheme. It has to be.
I'm not sure that there's anything that's not a pyramid scheme.
Right. I've had this question.
Capitalism is an uber pyramid scheme.
Yeah, I think it's pyramids all the way down, and I really do think the fractal nature of consensus reality is pyramidal. Pyramidal.
Pyramidal sounds nice.
Yeah, it does.
Sounded all right.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, maybe the pyramidal structure of consensus reality for some other time. Is everything a pyramid scheme?
I'm a big old number 3, so I could agree with you. But what I'm getting from all of this is that it's supposed to make you kind of full of rage. It's supposed to make you a little aggressive and angry, because aggression is passion, is creativity. It's all the same fucking thing. If you have to spark it, and it's supposed to be uncomfortable because it's supposed to get you moving. So like we've described it, and I think like personally I would want to wrap my end up by saying, like, don't be afraid of it, go for it. It's supposed to be uncomfortable, be brave. Yeah.
Be uncomfortable, be brave.
Supposed to be uncomfortable, be brave. That's a t-shirt. Boom.
Yeah.
All right.
But
well, everybody, I think that is a good place to wrap it up. It's supposed to be uncomfortable, be brave. Thank you for listening.
All right.
Have a good week, day, night, wherever you are. If you're having breakfast right now, hopefully that's nice too. All right. Good night. I don't know how to do sign-offs. I'm still going. I don't give a fuck. All right. I'll figure out some sign-off. This is Mystic Train Wreck pulling into the station. See, that doesn't make any fucking sense.
How about a countdown?
Pulling out.
On 1, we all hit leave.
All right.
3, 2, 1.
I'm still here. Fuck that guy.
I knew that was gonna happen. Yeah, that was
quiet
fun.
to the end.
We're still recording though. Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
It's hilarious.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, we are. We don't have to. Stop.